Hey YouTube, this is Pump. I've played Fire Mage since the start of Shadowlands while raid leading, and I feel knowledgeable enough now to present to you my full Fire Mage guide. Firstly, here are my disclaimers about Fire. Number one, it is very hard to parse on Fire Mage without Power Infusion. We simply gain a lot of DPS because of how much value Haste gives us, and all the top logs will pretty much always have Power Infusion. Number two, Arcane Mage currently does a lot of things better than Fire. If you check logs, Arcane Mage is beating us pretty much everywhere. Yeah. As the expansion goes on, though, I have a feeling that will change as we get more haste. One of the biggest benefits about Fire Mage right now is that we run pretty much the same exact thing in single target and in AoE. The only thing that changes between single target and AoE is we cut useless AoE abilities like Ice Nova that you only press in AoE and DB, and you add in defensive stuff like Diverted Energy, and Displacement is also very good in some situations. Other than that, you're not changing much of anything. When we switch to pure single target, if you wanted to change something in the right hand tree, your main change would just be cutting Cauterize and adding in Call the Sun King. But Cauterize is too strong of an ability to not have right now. Cheat Death is just one of the strongest things in the game. So, yeah. Onto our stat prio, we want as much haste as we physically can get. Haste is by far our best stat, and it also makes the class play like 20 times better when you get a lot more haste. We go haste, then mastery, then verse, then crit. Crit is the worst stat we want. I'll show how much worse it is, but haste is literally like double the damage compared to crit right now with how my character sims. But always sim your character. As for trinkets, right now, a bunch of news just came out about the Ruby Whelp shell, and I have a feeling that it's going to be extremely good on Fire Mage right now. At 415, it's looking like it's proccing 3,100 haste, and just to kind of gauge how much that is, my character right now has 3,800 haste, and yeah, it would nearly double my haste if it procced, and I think the proc rate on it is looking to be good. You just have to do it for 6 days. I'll link the Weakauras for it down below, but yeah, definitely keep your eye on the Ruby Whelp shell. Other than that, you can go double passive. Double passive is seeming very viable on Fire Mage right now, just because of how good Furious Rage Feather and the Incarnate icon is. But other than that, you can go Chill Globe on use, or the Desperate Invokers Codex, or Time Breaching Talon. All those are fine. For our crafted gear and embellishments, first up I would suggest making a staff at the highest high level you can. Weapons give us the most damage always, so they're always the first priority craft. Then you would go to Lariat. Lariat is an extremely good craft, and its embellishment is one of the best. And then after that, you can craft whatever you want to fill your slots, honestly. I opted to go with boots because I struggled to find haste boots, but you can also do belt or a ring if you want. Up to you. As far as embellishments go, I opted for Battle Pot because I'm using the big boy Battle Pots, and 15 more seconds of 886 int sounds fantastic to me, but I mainly geared myself for raid. I think if you go M+, the mastery above 90% HP might be a little bit better. So, up to you there. For our consumables, everything is pretty straightforward. We're using File a Tepid Verse pretty much everywhere. There's a couple of files that are kind of sim bait that I really wouldn't suggest. Like the one where you hold still. It sims is the best, but that's kind of impractical as Fire Mage because we want to jump around so we don't hardcast Pyro when we don't want to. Yeah, definitely go File Tepid Verse. Living is also really good. As for our food, we go Fated Fortune Cookie or Feast. The Haste Verse food is also okay, but Fated Fortune Cookie is better. Then we go Howling Rune for just more haste. And then for our battle pots, we're using Elemental Potion of Ultimate Power or Elemental Potion of Power, depending on how much you want to spend. For our single target rotation, I went ahead and slowed this clip down a lot because I think it's really important to understand what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. So we start out by hard casting Pyro. We double Lust. We're into building our SKB while alternating our Fireblast procs. Here I double Fireball and a double Pyro. I'm nearing 8. I hit 8. We hardcast Pyro and into our Combust window. Here we build to 3 stacks of Feel the Burn, and then we are just simply Phoenix Flames, Pyro, Fireblast, Pyro, alternating. When we hit 8 stacks, we re-rune a power, hardcast our Pyro again. I Fireblast during my Pyro to keep up my Feel the Burn stacks, and we continue doing the same thing. Shifting power at the end when we have no buttons left. Build back to our last SKB proc. Our window's over, no more rune. We just blow the rest of our combust. And then we're full out of juice. This took me around 45 seconds with double lust. And I peaked at like 130k single target, which I think is pretty competitive for no externals. One of the nicest things about Fire is that we get to do the same exact thing for AoE as we do in single target. The way Fire works right now is through Fire Blast. We just spread our ignites, and we are constantly cleaving. The most important thing about Fire right now in AoE is targeting the highest HP add or target in the group so that we can constantly build our ignite off of that target. If you know your single target rotation, you should also know the AoE rotation. Nothing really changes except you ignore Fire Starter. So yeah. Going over Weakauras really quickly. There are 4 Weakauras that I suggest. Only 3 of them I would say are necessary though. Up first, of most importance, is the SKB proc tracker. So you know when to hardcast your Pyro and get your mini combust. Secondly, I suggest using your own or making your own lust cooldown tracker so that you don't miss your double lust. If you miss your double lust in a key, you feel like your DPS is in the garbage bin. It does not feel great. And you end up just missing 30% haste for 30 seconds, and you're very sad. Up third, we have our mouse cursor tracker. This just tells you where your mouse cursor is at all times so you don't miss it. I really like it for quality of life. And then lastly, I don't use it myself, but I will link it in the description below. Every Weakaura and every macro I use will be in the description below, but you can consider tracking Feel the Burn if you're new and need to feel out where you should be placing your Fire Blasts to still keep up the stacks. But this was really made easier in Dragonflight. The cooldown is like 5 seconds. If you played Fire in Shadowlands, it was like 3 seconds and you had to kind of spam the Fire Blast, but in Dragonflight it's much easier. As for our macros, the only macro you need is throwing everything into your Combust. We're throwing our Racial, our Trinket, and our Battle Pot into our Combust. One of the most annoying things about Dragonflight, honestly, is all these Battle Pot names have different text. So like in Raid, you get this fleeting text because it's soulbound and disappears when you log out. So you have to have a Raid macro. You have to have a Dungeon macro if you're using the ultimates. Like, it gets annoying. But other than that, as for racials, Tauren is currently the best mage by a significant margin. But I'm Orc, and Troll is also very competitive. So I would suggest one of those 3. But play what you want to play. Racials don't matter that much. That is going to conclude my Fire Mage guide for Dragonflight Season 1. If you liked the guide and thought I did a good job, feel free to subscribe and leave a like. I plan on making some content on my thought process in dungeons and what you can improve on and how to do better DPS. I also might post some of my raid POVs and raid leading in the future. I'm going to list on screen my inspiration and some other cracked mages and fire mages on screen because I think absorbing information from them as well is only going to make you better as a mage player. So thanks everybody. Have a good one.